time. Jonathan Hobbs piloting the Humans deck. We've seen him play it with high proficiency throughout the day. Going to be taking on a new face to our feature match area. It's Michael Plummer. He's playing the villain. It's Bridgevine. Trying to see if he could solidify a top 8 berth for this Bridgevine deck.
And now why is Bridgevine the villain? Why can't that be the hero?
It just does not work that way, Craig. If you listen to the crowd of people calling for this deck's head, I don't think a lot of people would say this is a favorite. It's more of an obligation to play this deck. Although I'll say, I just read you those 4 teams that are guaranteed in. There's not a ton of Bridgevine amongst those teams.
Sure.
So that's something to be said. However, we've watched this deck in action. Unquestionably very powerful. Off to a fine start here. Fueling up the graveyard. We already know there's a bridge from below there.
Oh, man.
So we're getting up to shenanigans. Carrion Feeder going to eat a Stitcher Supplier. Graveyard gets even more gas in it. Just a lonely champion of the parish over on Jonathan Hobbs' side. Let's see what the follow-up play is from Plummer here. Going to bring back... This is already preposterous. He brought back his Blood Gas, sacrificed it again to the Carrion Feeder, got another token from the bridge, and just passes the turn back. I mean, that was kind of a bad turn for the Bridgevine deck, and it put 7 power into play on turn 2. So,
well, and he still has access to that Blood Gas, right?
Yep.
He played a fetch land, so
absolutely.
We could basically say that the Blood Gas is on the board.
Here's a Kite Sail freebooter. That's going to be a miss. Flips over a hand of Blood Gas, land, Vengevine. That means there's way more Bloodghast action waiting on the next turn should Plummer want it.
And I just can't imagine that this start out of the Humans deck is going to be nearly competitive enough. He's going to take just a mess of damage on this next turn.
Yep.
There's going to be so many
tokens,
zombies just sitting on the board as well. This is kind of a disaster if you're on the human side.
Straight up, the Humans deck has a problem, at least in Game 1. It's very amplified in Game 1. Just beating straight up Zombie Factory. Like, if you get this setup where you're just able to grind out and make a bunch of zombies, this is tough for Humans to overcome. It's enough. It doesn't have to do the broken altar stuff. Just make some zombies. That's a form of card advantage that Humans can't keep up with.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at just the Carrion Feeder, that you can grow your champion of the parish big enough to get in front of that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to have enough time. The board's going to be too wide. There's going to be too many zombies involved here.
So Plummer just going to go ahead and deploy a land here, bring back that Bloodghast, tap a little mana, cast a Gravecrawler.
Oh, man.
Gravecrawler is going to enable a whole bunch of zombies to get into the mix here. Carrion Feeder is huge. I don't know, man. This just isn't something that the Humans deck is equipped to beat in Game 1s. You could have your Deputy Detention's main deck, I suppose. Jonathan Hobbs does not. If this continues to be a problem matchup going forward, I think you'd have to consider adding some copies to the main deck. I know that was popular. Going back to the last Modern PT, a lot of players did adapt to Deputy Detention in the main.
So I don't know if you're a Dota fan. You're familiar with the game?
I play a little auto chess. Don't know a ton about Dota, though.
Okay, so there's just a chat wheel where you can fill it with different sayings that are famous from coverage and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the one is just someone screaming in a high-pitched voice, "It's a disaster!"
Yeah.
And, like, it's just something that plays in my head all the time now.
It definitely fits here.
Yeah, this is one of those situations you're sitting on the human side, it's a disaster!
This is, in fact, a disaster. The beatdowns are coming quick, and I don't think that Hobbs can really do anything about it. Looking through his options, considering all of his outs.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many zombies on the other side of the board.
Yep, Zombie Factory often a good enough. Plummer was willing to give up the bridge there. Traded with the freebooter. Still plenty of gas remaining in that graveyard. Gravecrawler ready to come back.
Yep, Bloodghast in the grip.
There's Faithless looting down there. Vengevine in hand. Plenty of options for Plummer. Thalia's Lieutenant going to be the play here from Hobbs. Champion of the parish getting bigger, slowly. There's Noble Hierarch, more counters for the team. And Hobbs just going to go ahead and ship the turn back to Plummer.
Yeah, he's trying to fight the good fight. But the evil Bridgevine deck looks like it's in a pretty advantaged position.
Yeah,
here.
I would assume this one goes to the bad guys. Let's see how Plummer wants to play this next turn.
sometimes it's good to be bad.
I agree, especially in the context of a very broken Magic deck. Looks like Faithless Looting going to be the play here for Plummer. Picking up the graveyard. There is the Faithless Looting. 2 off the top of the deck. Sure, we're going to pitch some goodies into the bin here. Yep, Vengevine, Bloodghast. Those 2 cards aren't bad to have in your graveyard. This was the point we were making about Faithless Looting just expanding your hand infinitely. The graveyard's another hand for this deck. As you see, it just puts spell after spell that it can still cast into the bin via Faithless Looting.
And he left 2 zombies back. What does that tell you?
Little bit of Hogak action on the way.
Makes you nervous?
Yeah, I'm sure Hobbs knows what's coming here.
Oh, man.
Hobbs lining up a few blocks here, including a couple of chumps. Well, one chump, one trade.
Carrion Feeder, it costs 1 mana, the Carrion Feeder.
The old 1 mana 7/7.
Yeah.
Backed up by free 2/1s, free 4/3s, free 8/8 tramples.
And a mess of free 2/2 tokens.
And a bunch of free 2/2 tokens. Nothing costs anything. Everything's free here at the Bridgevine Discount Warehouse. Come on down, pick up your zombies, vampires, and vines. Everything must go from the graveyard.
And it's not even like you could just take a shot from this Carrion Feeder.
Yep, that would end the game real quick.
Yeah. Oh, what a mess.
Hobbs says, I'm going to block like this. As we said, a chump, a trade, an effective block for Hobbs. And now we're in the second main phase. Those 2 zombies getting tapped. Oh, look who it is. It's Hogak.
Surprise!
Back in the mix, getting rid of some meaningless cards now. Leaving behind Gravecrawler, Vengevine, all that kind of good stuff. Hobbs says, yep, thank you, I've had enough.
Had enough.
Been a pleasure playing against you, Bridgevine deck. And Hobbs going to be very happy to head over to the sideboard, see what kind of help he can find. We're going to go ahead and read through. We're looking at 4 Yixa Jailers, 3 Auroch Champions, 2 Deputy of Detention, 2 Phyrexian Revokers, 2 Gaddock Teague, 1 Militia Bugler, and finally 1 Dismember. What are we doing if we're over on Hobbs' side?
So obviously all of these jailers are coming in. I also think the Deputy of Detention is quite good, especially against your opponent's very good draws. Anytime they open with multiple Vengevines, this is going to be one of your few answers in order to interact with that. Some of the other cards, I believe in the same matchup in previous rounds, he's brought in the Militia Bugler to try to help find some of these answers.
Makes sense.
So I can see all of these cards coming in.
Yeah, big upgrade there for Hobbs. Gives him some way to finally stop his opponent from just goldfishing, basically. Meanwhile, over on Plummer's side, we're looking at 1 Dark Blast, 1 Thalia, 2 Lightning Axe, 2 Flamekin Harbinger, 2 Ingot Chewer, 3 Wispmare, and 4 Leyline of the Void. What do you want to do if you're over on Plummer's side? Note, there's a couple of Thalia's main deck for Michael Plummer. A weird little look for this Bridgevine deck, but probably a good call into a field of a lot of Is It Phoenix, getting a few points in that matchup.
Sure.
They'll obviously be leaving in this matchup, though.
Yeah, obviously they're not here for humans, but it's an interesting add to the main deck when all you need is that 1 or 2 extra turns for your deck to just really snowball out of control. We see in his sideboard here, he's got that Elemental Tutor package.
Yep.
Not good in this matchup, but it's something that we'd spoken about earlier in the day. I expect the 2 Axes and the Dark Blast to come in, and that to be just about it.
So we know some of these humans players have picked up Leyline of the Void. I've seen it a few times now. As the Bridgevine player, how concerned are you about that? Or just make them show you it before you're willing to bring in any kind of hate for a Leyline of the Void?
So we're late in the tournament here. You've been sitting around these teams a lot, right? Like, all of the top teams are at the top tables. So if you're pretty actively on the lookout, in these last couple of rounds, you should have a pretty good idea of what your opponents are trying to do. That being said, Plummer might not necessarily know, Hobbs' full 15 sideboard cards. He might bring in the Wispmares because he's afraid of Leyline. but he might already be informed. And to your point, maybe he just says, show it to me, and then I'll bring this in.
I think that's my approach if I'm going up against the Humans matchup. I just need to know you're playing Leyline before I'm diluting my deck that much. Results from one of the other matches, Dom Harvey takes down Edward Barton in the Bridgevine Mirror. Dom Harvey up a game there. If you want to have some say over what matchups we're going to be seeing in the quarterfinals, I want to remind you, we do offer that little modicum of control over to our Twitch subscribers. You get to vote on what exactly we'll be showing in the quarterfinals. If you're a Bridgevine hater and don't want to see it one more time, start yelling over in our Twitch chat. Let them know, no more Bridgevine. Vote for me, please. You'll find a good matchup, I'm sure. Like I said, there's a lot of non-Bridgevine decks in this top 8. While the deck is unquestionably powerful, unquestionably well represented, and will be present in the top 8, almost certainly, it's not an all Bridgevine field. You'll find some good matchups to vote for. Only $4.99 a month to subscribe to us over on Twitch. Of course, you can use those Twitch Prime subscriptions as well. You also get icons that you can spam in the chat. We always like to call for them to spam the Game Podcast chat. Even though the Game Podcast is a relic of the past, no longer exists. Obviously, we're on that Arena deck list grind now. We still love that emoticon, though. Drop it out there. Do it for us one time. Twitch.tv/SCG Tour.
Who are the hosts over there for that podcast?
It is one Brian Gottlieb and one Jerry Thompson.
Oh, okay. I'm a pretty big fan of those two guys.
Cool. Yeah, I like him as well. At least that Jerry Thompson guy. The Brian Gottlieb, whatever. I could take him or leave him.
Sure.
You got to get through the cast. He kind of moves things along. That's fine.
Got to keep Jerry in line.
Right. Someone's got to reel him in. What are you voting for when it comes time for the quarterfinals? You want to see more Bridgevine action, or are you ready for something else?
No, honestly, I'm having a ball today. All day yesterday, all day today. This Bridgevine deck, it's just so unfair. It's so powerful, and I'm just trying to enjoy it while we have it.
It's like watching a lion hunt, right? There's something powerful, majestic about it as it stalks its prey.
Yeah, there's less blood involved here.
A little bit. Only a little bit.
I have a soft stomach, get a little queasy.
Okay, so you're not looking for this kind of gruesome murdering that we've been seeing from the Bridgevine deck. You want to tone down a little bit.
That I can just barely handle.
Okay.
But the nature shows sometimes are outside of my comfort zone.
I hear you. I'm a fan of the more adorable nature documentaries. Show me some cute baby animals. I don't really need to see the hunting part of things. I just deny that part exists.
Well, yeah, as long as the cute babies make it to adulthood, right?
Oh, yeah. If you show me a baby getting hunted, we're going to have issues. Not sticking around for that nature documentary.
Or it's just like, oh, mom couldn't find enough food or whatever.
And it starves to death. Get out of here. I don't need that in my life right now. I'm looking for positive success stories from baby animals.
Global warming? What's that?
Yeah.
Don't want to hear about it.
Total blank. No, actually, we should be very concerned about that one. Let's not pass on that one. We can ignore baby animals who are starving to death. That's part of nature. That's real. The global warming stuff, pay attention to that. That's important.
I was just trying to rope you along there, see if you'd go for the ride.
You almost caught me. I was like, yeah. Wait a second. That's the one we're actually concerned about.
Not the poor baby animals dying.
Well, that does break my heart, but it is a cycle of life. Somehow, how the story goes. I don't want to say any of these players meet a gruesome death either. I hope we see a good game here in Game 2. And Jonathan Hobbs finds a way to slow down Michael Plummer a little bit, because Michael got to do whatever he wanted in that game.
Yeah, and we talked about the matchup and their match points going into this. As we noted, with a win, Team Hobbs is definitely in.
Yep.
With a loss, the Breakers might actually still hold up.
They might hold up. Yep.
The Team Plummer on the opposite side, with a loss, they're out. No chance. With a win, they still have to hope that their Breakers are among the best of the 33 match point Breakers.
Absolutely. So they're going to have a sweat even if they get the victory here. And then there'll be an alternate sweat for Hobbs, Harvey, and Bertarioni as they wait to find if they did squeak into the top 8. What do we know about the teams that have locked up their top 8 berths? With the Basteki Koval Manges, that is the Grixis Urza, that is Phoenix Manges, also on Phoenix, is that correct?
Oh man, putting me to the test. I think there was one Bridgevine on that team.
No, Mage is also on Phoenix. So 2 Phoenix, 1 Urza deck. We have the 3 Phoenix team of Negri, Light, Stanley. They're in smooth. A lot of Phoenix in that top 8. Meanwhile, we're ready to start our match here. Michael Plummer is on a mulligan to 6. Hobbs with a fine start. Ether Vial, probably the best start from this Humans deck.
And watching the Bridgevine deck, it's always so funny because the first turn just seems kind of innocuous.
Right.
Where you're just like,
one drop creature, that's it.
Is this a good start? Is it not a good start? Like, sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It's turns 2 and turns 3 when it either comes off the rails or your opponent actually has a shot.
Yeah, that's when things can go bonkers for sure. Another result over in one of our other matches, Bertarioni taking down William Thompson in game 1 of the Mardu Death Shadow versus Crixus Urza matchup. As I mentioned, Bertarioni, the only one piloting that Mardu deck to cruise into day 2.
Yeah, and I would think in that matchup, if the Death Shadow deck is able to get ahead on the board at all, just time walking them with a couple of the Ranger Captain of Eos would be a very effective strategy.
That makes sense to me.
A little confusion. Do this. No.
Champion of Parish first. That is correct. Get that a little bigger. Play Meddling Mage. We'll figure out exactly what that Meddling Mage is naming in just a moment. Looks like Insolent Neonate going to be cashed in here for a Bridge from Below. That's going to go ahead, put a zombie on the battlefield. Meddling Mage naming Altar right now. See if that proves to be the correct name. Here's Faithless Looting. Two cards drawn, now 2 cards to discard. You see a Vengevine in Plummer's hand, alongside a Bloodghast. Those are good discards. Here comes Bloodghast back to the battlefield. Sacrifice Outlet really puts this hand in high gear. You get to do the zombie factory stuff again, but no 1-drop Sacrifice Outlet from Plummer. And we know Altar of Dementia shut off by that Meddling Mage. Turn's going to head back to Hobbs. Ticks up at the Ether Vial.
Yeah, and this is an interesting spot where, Hobbs could offer some trades here and get that Bridge from Below out of the graveyard if a trade happens. But he also just wants to get damage through. He really wants to start clocking the opponent. And if he grows his creatures, he kind of lets the opponent chump block with that zombie token. The Bridge from Below sits in the graveyard and is potentially a problem in turns moving forward.
Absolutely. So looking at the hand, it looks like we're working with a Reflector Mage. We have a Phantasmal Image, and I saw an Ether Vial as well.
Offers the trade.
And I think he's also got a Deputy of Detention in hand. So a pretty reactive hand from Hobbs. Not the fastest clock, but able to deal with a lot from Plummer. And there is going to be a trade that's going to deal with that first Bridge. Step 2 here, another Ether Vial. Going to activate the first Ether Vial, put something into play, but Plummer says, hold on, I have a response to that.
Yep.
If Plummer makes the top 8 of this tournament, I want him to go buy himself a life pad. Because he appears to be using a crumpled up McDonald's napkin.
Yeah, it looks like an old tissue or something.
And he's not even using it. He's just scrawling life totals across it haphazardly, left and right.
Yeah, they're all on different angles and stuff.
Right.
I like that. Little personality there.
It's time for a boogie board or something to that effect.
No, when you're a mad scientist,
you just scribble the life totals anywhere.
You do your thing.
So we did see a Lightning Axe from Plummer. He did bring in Wispmare in the dark.
Okay.
Interesting. Here's Altar of Dementia. See why he wanted to kill that Meddling Mage. And let's see if we can get some action going from the graveyard here.
And that was a very heads-up play last turn by Plummer. Axing the Meddling Mage in response to the Vial activation.
Absolutely.
It's kind of funny because Hobbs didn't even have another 2-drop he could put into play. It was just Phantasmal Image or bust.
Right. Yeah, kind of wasted that Ether Vial activation. Vials continuing to tick up.
And Hobbs went from a very good start with, the 1-drop that grows, putting pressure on the opponent. He had the Meddling Mage to shut off the Altar, and real quick, he just ended up with no board.
Yeah.
and the opponent just has all the time in the world to do what they want to do.
Well, tides turn quickly, but a fine top deck here from Hobbs. Finds a Phyrexian Invoker. That's going to go ahead and shut down the altar one more time. Time for Bloodghast to do a little combat. Get into the red zone. Going to deal 2. Now we're spending 3. It's Flashback Faithless Looting. 2 draws here from Plummer.
And yeah, and every turn that you're not pressuring or locking out this Bridgevine deck is just so terrifying.
They get more resources. Another Wispmare. So really hard on the Wispmare plan is Plummer. We'll see if he adjusts when it comes time for game 3.
You know, it reminds me a lot of the dredge deck of yore, where the first couple of dredges, they might not hit anything, but then their deck is just getting more and more juicy with things that they can dredge into.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the Stitcher Supplier. That's going to put 3 more cards in the graveyard. 2 lands and an altar. Nothing too exciting there. And Plummer just going to go ahead and pass the turn back. He's hellbent. No cards in hand. And now it's up to Hobbs to navigate this situation. And he's got a lot of tools to do so.
Yeah, he's really been fortunate that Plummer hasn't done more to get onto the board.
Right.
He hasn't hit a Hogak. He hasn't hit a Gravecrawler.
Here's a Medley Mage. Figure out what that's naming. I think it's going to name Hogak. Can't quite make out the handwriting, but that's my guess here. And Hobbs going to go ahead and pass the turn back to Plummer. Can confirm that Medley Mage is naming Hogak. Correct name, I believe, from Hobbs. Follow up Stitcher's Supplier.
So many cards into the graveyard.
2 lands and another Bloodghast. Still hellbent is Michael Plummer. Now Hobbs has to decide if he wants to go ahead and use an Ether Vial activation. He does not. Just wants to take a draw. I think we found our second Deputy of Detention, possibly.
And with the second one, that might open him up to be willing to use the first one and start attacking.
Yeah, I wonder. Like you said, it's questionable how much time you can afford to give Plummer. But it feels like Hobbs has a lot of angles covered right now, quite frankly. He's got the altar locked up. No Hogaks to worry about.
Yeah, you just worry if you're not clocking the opponent that it's more of a house of cards.
Yeah.
Where if one piece, comes off, the whole thing comes crashing down.
Yeah, Carrion Feeder could be a scary card in this spot. There's a lot of options. There is that first Deputy Detention, though. That's going to clean up the Stitcher Suppliers.
Okay, and I was kind of interested in doing this last turn.
Mm-hmm.
He missed 4 points of attack.
I think so. I'm with you.
But at least he got there. Now, he's quote-unquote turned the corner where he is going to start pressuring the opponent.
Right, start doing a little beating down. Here's 5 damage headed Plummer's way. Yeah, I think there's an argument that Hobbs could be attacking for lethal on this next turn had he played it differently. But wanted to be a little bit more conservative. Obviously, not knowing the contents of Plummer's deck makes a difference. Got another Medley Mage. That one's going to name Gravecrawler.
Okay.
Hobbs going to go ahead, untap. Lots of attackers at the ready. Here comes 7 damage Plummer's way, and things looking good for Jonathan Hobbs to force a game 3 here. Plummer's going to need some real help off the top of the deck. Takes his draw. Faithless Looting. Bit of a rebuy there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that Hobbs is working with a lot of action in his hand. Plummer probably thinks the same thing, but he's in this desperate situation. He literally can't play around anything.
Yep.
It's whatever he can do, he has to try to do, and just hope that his opponent doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, it seems unlikely at this point. But you maximize your outs, and Plummer is looking to do so right now.
And seeing that Wispmare in this game, I wonder if those stay in for game 3.
There's another one. I hope not. I mean...
Well, again, just because your opponent didn't leyline you doesn't mean that they're not playing with leyline.
Here's the argument where I think you can get to the fact that they're not, is that they snapped 7, and it wasn't like a super dominant 7. It wasn't the best possible 7 they could open on. And if they have Leyline in their deck, I think you can make an argument that they'll probably go to 6 in that spot. Probably. Now, that's reading a lot, and again, that can be secondhand knowledge because I'm sitting up here with all the answers, so it's very easy for me to say this. We'll see if Michael Plummer can get there and get those Wisp-Mares out of the deck for the next set of games.
This is a kind of a funny interaction. He's like, oh, I'll finally get this thing off the board, open up my altar. And Hobbs is like, no, I've got these in spades.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
So Hobbs has tied up this match, 1 game apiece now between Hobbs and Plummer. And we're going to shuffle up for a game 3, and I'm going to watch very carefully. I want to see if Plummer goes to the sideboard. I have to say, I always, out of habit, give my sideboard a look before I start game 3.
Yeah, nothing to lose there, right?
Right, and I just want to recheck where I'm at, think about my sideboard plan one more time, make any adjustments that become clear. I don't want to drag Michael Plummer here. I think this is a tough decision whether you're playing Wisp-Mare or not.
Yep.
But you have to consider everything you saw, and you have to at least give it a thought that maybe it's time to get these Wisp-Mares out of my deck. I mean, that's 3 dead draws he suffered in that game.
Yes, 100%. And it looks like he did not go back to the sideboard. There's a little anecdote that I was told by one of my colleagues earlier today about having Karn, the Great Creator, in their deck, and not checking their sideboard after each game,
right?
And tutoring up card with Karn, and then having it end up in their main deck for game 2 and game 3.
That sounds like something a real idiot would do. I can't believe someone who works here at SCG would be so foolish as to not properly de-sideboard after activating Karn, the Great Creator. But I guess anything's possible, right?
Yeah, it was Cedric.
It wasn't Cedric. I can't let you do that to him. It was very clearly me.
I just wanted to slowly pressure you into saying it yourself.
I will say I did review my sideboard in those games.
Wow.
And I honestly don't know how I managed to do this. It was my first time playing with Karn in my defense. But and this is why you do things like that. You need to check how you're set up, what's going on. If there's any changes you need to make, if you've properly de-sideboarded, de-wished, I should say.
Sure. Yeah, de-tutored.
Yeah. So Dominic Harvey took down his match against Edward Barton in the Bridgevine Mirror. Jeremy Bertarioni up a game as well.
Yeah, the team Barton, Plummer, Thompson really with their backs against the wall here.
Absolutely.
And this has been the story of a lot of the weekend, right? Where it's Bridgevine, everyone knew.
Uh-oh, wait, I just saw a handshake. And that leads me to believe that we got a determinative result over in our other game. You see players, a lot of excitement, de-sideboarding, and that means the team of Dominic Harvey, Jonathan Hobbs, and Jeremy Bertarioni are going to advance to the top 8, probably with a very